Located in the region of the galaxy known as the Colonies, the world Arcania is a particular world. I wouldn't miss this for all the diamonds in Arcania, a common spacer saying, which represents the popularly known image of this world, where the main characteristic is the mining activity, which adventurers can find with gems of all sizes, from small fragments to massive faceted stone. Arcania is the dream place for all jewelers. On this planet with geographic regions of tundra is the Jedi Master Arca Jeth, a male Arcanian training his 3 young Jedi, Tott Donetta, Ulic Qel-Droma, and Ulic Qel-Droma. The lessons from Master Arca are diverse. It's in one of these sessions that Master Arca communicates to his students the reason for his arduous training, giving his apprentices data and information about their first next mission. Master Jeth tells them the history of Onderon. The expansion of the Republic has reached unknown places, discovering new systems throughout the galaxy, one of them being the Onderon system. This system was formed of a sun and 3 planets, including the planet Onderon, which gives the system its name. It's the only place hospitable with intelligent life. In addition, the planet Onderon is accompanied by 4 moons: Dxun, Dagri, Ivas, Sothra. The first of these being the one that has a special attention for the mission given to Ulic, Kay, and Tott. Onderon was covered in lush jungle rainforests filled with towering trees and thick underbrush vegetation across its continents. Akin to its main world, Dxun mirrored Onderon's essence. Though offering a temperate climate suitable for habitation, the moon's perpetual dampness posed formidable trials. Unrelenting precipitation and humid airs conspired against machineries and any technology resistance, mandating constant vigilance and upkeep. Additionally, the verdant jungles teemed with lethal predators, necessitating the denizens remained ever armed against nature's ferocious malice. Despite its satellite status, the kinship between Dxun and Onderon transcends even further than a planet-moon relationship. Their distance was so intimate that the contact between the two simply required a minimal change of course. And it's here, in this particular feature, where the Jedi's mission begins. Since the beginning of Onderon in its first primitive societies, once per year during the summer season, the atmosphere of Dxun touches the planet's atmosphere, allowing the bestial creatures of the moon to cross over and prey on the peaceful inhabitants of Onderon. For hundreds of years, the Onderonians suffered the terror of once a year confronting terrible flying creatures. The response against this threat was to learn to defend themselves using primitive weapons, developing a taste for hunting their predators in order to even feed on their meat. Thousands of years passed, and from tribal culture, everything evolved into a modern civilization. In reaction to this annual terror, the Onderonians created a huge walled city, the city of Isis. A city that during the following years grew on a scale so large that it could protect several million inhabitants. Everything outside the walls, almost entirely the planet Onderon, was a savage outland where primitive violence ruled. As time went by, it became an Ondorian custom to exile criminals outside the city of Isis, so it was an effective way of execution, being supported by the creatures of Dxun. At first, these condemnations worked. However, as the years went by, the outcasts not only survived, they thrived, taming the very beasts that threatened them. Soon, the skies of Onderon were filled with riders flying on the backs of their flying beasts. Some of them became warlords, leaders of their own armies. Since that moment, from the uprising of outcasts turned riders, the city of Isis has suffered attack after attack, where for years, brave warriors have defended the wall from aerial threats. Jedi Master Arca Jeth informs his 3 students that the Jedi Order always assigns a Jedi Knight to guard a specific system and in this case, Arca had been assigned to Onderon's system, but Master Jeth indicates that the three of them would be sent to Onderon to end this conflict that has lasted hundreds of years, the conflict known as the Beast Wars. Tott, Kay, and Ulic accept the mission, where finally, after so many years of training, they will face a challenge, heading from Arcania to Onderon aboard the Nebulon Ranger. On Onderon, the three Jedi arrive on the city's spaceport and meet Novar, the Onderonian Minister of State, welcoming them in the name of Queen Amanoa of Onderon. However, the greeting wasn't at all cordial to Tott Donetta, and that he is almost imprisoned by city rules, where passage to any alien species is prohibited. The Qel-Droma brothers turn on their lightsabers to protect their friend. However, urgency helps the Jedi at this moment, and that the Queen Amanoa had ordered the presence of the three Jedi no matter what. In the presence of Queen Amanoa and her daughter, the heir to the throne Gallia, the Jedi formally introduce themselves. With an authoritarian and arrogant tone, the Queen belittles the three Jedi since she was waiting for Master Arca Jeth. But Uli comes to the defense, confirming that they are capable enough to resolve any conflict. And, as if the Force heard them, that moment had arrived. Outside the palace, the Beast Wars were being brutal and merciless. Riders flying around the city of Isis caused considerable casualties to the defenses, allowing them to gain access to the city. Beast Riders managed to enter the palace, causing commotion and destruction. Queen Amanoa ordered the Jedi to carry out the job they were there for, and Tott Donetta, Qel-Droma, and Ulic Qel-Droma turned on the lightsabers to defend the city, the Queen, and her daughter. But the bravery of the guards and the three Jedi were surpassed by the ferocity of the warriors mounted on her flying beasts. Queen Amanoa and Princess Gallia had been sheltered inside the palace. However, the Beast Riders managed to reach them. In a moment of desperation, Queen Amanoa calls upon the powers of a legendary Force-sensitive individual, a being feared by many, and thanks to this summoning, she performs magic. However, she is too old for that, causing no considerable damage to the Beast Riders and causing the kidnapping of her daughter. The Jedi had arrived too late, and Queen Amanoa orders them to go to the rescue of her daughter. Ulic, blinded by the moment and his impatient personality, doesn't perceive something that his brother and Tott do, a trace of dark forces. Ulic sees an opportunity to prove his worth, and aboard his ship, the Nebulon Ranger, they go in search of Princess Gallia. However, Ulic's lack of experience in command of the mission causes the moment to overwhelm the three Jedi, causing the Nebulon Ranger to be shot down by a missile. Tott Donetta, Kay, and Ulic Qel-Droma managed to survive the forced landing, but with the bad luck, another threat reached them: creatures native to Onderon, Boma beasts. Here is where a special ability of Tott comes to light, the beast control ability. Using the Force, the Twilight can communicate with the creatures in order to calm them and even interrogate them. Thus, the Boma beasts inform Tott that they have seen the princess, and the creatures take them to the place where Gallia is located. To the Jedi's surprise, they arrive in the middle of a wedding, the wedding of Princess Gallia to Onderon Kira, the son of Beast Lord Moton Kira. The Jedi arrive brandishing their lightsabers. Ulic Qel-Droma, riding a beast, approaches the princess and he rescues her. However, Gallia's response to see him surprises Ulic, as she begs not to be rescued. Moton Kira, one of the Beast Lords who live outside the city of Isis, invites the Jedi to put away their lightsabers and accompany them to the wedding banquet so they can speak in peace. The Jedi accept the request. 3 generations of the Kira family are present at the wedding: the son, Onderon Kira, and future husband of Gallia; the father, Moton Kira, the Beast Lord; and the grandfather, Droko Kira. Ulic asks the princess and Onderon Kira about her love story. They explain how they met and how they fell in love, Gallia revealing that the entire kidnapping event was an arrangement between the Kira family and Gallia, since despite loving her mother, Queen Amanoa, she couldn't bear to live under the cloak of the dark side. Ulic Qel-Droma is surprised to hear this. Then, Kira explains that hundreds of years ago, there was an individual with an exceptional connection to the Force. He always wanted to have control and unlimited power, so he took Onderon as his new kingdom, bringing the power of the dark side to the planet, and anyone who opposed him would have a terrible end. That fate was what befell Auron's grandfather, Drogo Kira. He was cast out of Isis years ago for challenging the dark side, creating the Kira dynasty as Beast Lords. Modern Kira goes to Ulic and confesses that all the Beast Lords of Onderon are being gathered to form the largest army that has ever existed on the planet, in order to take the city and put an end to this evil once and for all. Modon invites Ulic to be part of the rebellion, confessing to Qel-Droma that the being who hundreds of years ago brought evil to Onderon had been one like him, a Jedi. Shock came over Ulic upon hearing this. Inspired by his master Arca, Ulic proposes to the Kira a peaceful solution, a dialogue with Queen Amanoa, and thus marking the end of the war. The three Kira accept Ulic's deal. However, they inform Qel-Droma that if his remedy doesn't work, they will take their weapons and head to take the city with his entire army. Tott, Kay, and Ulic return with Gallia to the palace with the queen. Ulic puts his dialogue solution into action, but Amanoa refuses to give her daughter in marriage with the son of a Beast Lord. The Jedi and the princess try to convince the queen, but she doesn't give in. Amanoa, fed up with what she is experiencing at that moment, and with the intention of ending everything once and for all, summons the spirit of the Dark Jedi who brought evil to Onderon, revealing a connection between the Queen and this fallen Jedi. All who are witnessing the invocation of Queen Amanoa find themselves being covered by an evil that had never experienced, powerful waves of darkness. The oppression that everyone feels is too strong. Everyone manages to escape from the place. Only Qel-Droma was unable to leave. Kira contacts his father and tells him what happened. Kira, in front of hundreds of warriors ready to fight, makes official the start of the last battle against Queen Amanoa in the walled city. Countless Beast Riders battle the city guards in a ruthless war. Meanwhile, Qel-Droma, who had stayed inside the place, threatens Queen Amanoa. However, the guards arrive to rescue the queen, and after a short battle between Kay and the guards, he loses his left arm. With Kay disabled, Queen Amanoa knows that the defense of her city will not survive the combined attacks of the Jedi and the Beast Riders, so she decides to retreat to a very particular place in her palace, to the mausoleum of the fallen Jedi, where the connection with the dark side is even stronger. Ulic returns for his brother and finds him injured. He picks him up and takes him out of the place. When he checks him to see if his wounds are life-threatening, Kay can see a droid in that location. With his abilities, he dismantles the droid's arm and places it on himself, replacing his lost arm. The battle for Isis rages on. Beast Riders and Onderon guards fight a violent battle. But victory is being tilted on the side of Queen Amanoa and her army, as the Queen is calling on the dark side, and through seed magic, she is managing to win the battle. When the war was lost for the cause of the Jedi and the Beast Riders, the counterweight to this power of the dark side appears in the sky of Onderon. A Jedi ship appears to the rescue. It's the Master Arca Jeth ship, and just as hundreds of years ago, Master Odanur in the Unification Wars of Koros won the Battle of Kirek, Arca Jeth uses the same ability to win this conflict, the Battle Meditation, an ability that allows the Jedi to inspire soldiers in a unique way to win the war, taking effect in winning the battle. Master Arca Jeth meets his students again, and they start a talk about everything they had experienced. Arca Jeth is disappointed in his students since they failed in the mission. They couldn't avoid an armed conflict, and furthermore, they couldn't perceive that the dark side reigned in Onderon. The Jedi find Queen Amanoa, and as if she had only been a pawn, the connection between Amanoa and the dark side is completely broken, causing the Queen's death. Following the end of the Beast Wars, Gallia and Oronkira solidified their marital bond through religious rites under the laws of the Republic. This ceremonial union brought together all the tribal factions inhabiting the planet Onderon, forging them into a society under a united populace. Despite the end of the conflict, the Jedi had to put an end to the origin of the dark side that reigned on the planet. In the same mausoleum where Queen Amanoa had gone, the Jedi found themselves facing the origin of evil, the resting place of the physical remains of the Dark Jedi who years ago had arrived on Onderon to reign with powers of the dark side, the tomb of Freedon Nadd. The Force surrounds everything and binds the galaxy together. Its presence flows through all living beings, guiding and influencing the movements of many civilizations in ways that often remain enigmatic to the wisest scholars and most powerful rulers. While the Force permeates even the most humble of life forms, there are rare individuals who seem to possess an extraordinary connection. They are blessed with unusual acuity. Approximately in the year 4400 before Battle of Yavin, one of these Force prodigies was born, Freedon Nadd. Little, almost nothing is known about Nadd's early life. It was at some point in his life that he arrived on Ossus, amazed by the great structure built by Odan-Ur, the Great Jedi Library. It was there on Ossus where his Jedi training began. From the beginning, the Jedi Masters could perceive Freedon's great connection with the Force. His abilities were indisputably surprising. They all knew the great potential that Nadd had, and they were all excited to see where his evolution as a Jedi would go, hoping that he might even become one of the most powerful Jedi Masters in the Order. With the enormous potential that he had, something that characterized the Jedi was his particular personality. Freedon was a very emotional individual. Hope and faith radiated within him in an unmatched way. Love for existence, for life itself, was his daily doctrine. For him, universal harmony was something for which he would fight all his life. He ceased trusting, believing, and surrendering fully to the Force was unmatched. Freedon projected an aura of having everything under control, having diligence and an affable nature. In the Order, praise wasn't enough to describe how exceptional he was. He seemed to take everything in stride, comply with everything requested, resolve conflicts, have a great sense of responsibility. At his best, Freedon simply radiated joy. However, that imperturbable exterior masked a fragility that reared its head whenever the currents of life became turbulent. The way of life of a Jedi, and even his aspirations, can be vague or blurred to an inappropriate mind. Many innate characteristics of the living being go against the philosophy and the desire of the Order. Freedon's mettle was subjected to its first trial, one that manifested itself in a completely unforeseen guise, catching him unawares. As the moment arrived for the Jedi Council to confer the rank of Jedi Knight upon the apprentices, they inexplicably bypassed Freedon. In that fateful instant, his entire world came crashing down around him. He felt as if a black hole had suddenly opened in his chest. A pall of disappointment descended upon him, swiftly trailed by the despair and anguish. Try as he might, he couldn't understand the reason behind the Jedi Master's decision to deny him the rank. Despite all his achievements and the wealth of knowledge he had accumulated during his studies in Ossus. Something particular with Freedon's case is that no one had ever hinted at the possibility of his not becoming a Jedi Knight. However, Nadd failed simply by not seeing that the rejection of Knight's rank was part of his own trial, a test to see if he could recognize the danger of his own expectations, his own increasing lack of humility. Freedon was an individual who shone like nothing compared when the days were the brightest, but in the darkest nights, he completely lost his way. Nadd found himself ensnared in an immense inner turmoil as the Jedi Master overtly precluded his promotion. On one hand, his mentors showered him with commendation, yet on the other hand, their actions amounted to a scathing rebuke. Nadd struggled to understand this illogical situation for him. However, regardless of the angle from which he examined the situation, the whole matter remained an enigma to him. On the outskirts of Ossus, a female Jedi Master always trained with her lightsaber, Master Mata Tremaine. She transmitted a peculiar energy, a serenity and inner peace that everyone could perceive. Even Nadd, in his most difficult moments, could perceive it. Freedon approached where Master Mata was, probably seeking some answers to his situation. Disturbed, Freedon sought advice from Mata Tremaine. Even as he approached her, Master Tremaine remained focused on executing her lightsaber moves, the vibrating blade following the path without any extraneous movement. He stood at the edge of the garden in which she was practicing, waiting somewhat impatiently for her to address him in some manner. For half an hour, silence reigned, only the lightsaber ringing. But Freedon could no longer contain his tumultuous thoughts fueled by his abandonment and anger. With a precise movement, Mata surprised Nadd at that moment by placing her lightsaber just a few inches from the young man's chest. While Freedon gasped in shock and confusion, Mata continued her training as if nothing had happened. Freedon, fed up with his situation, fed up with the order in his illogical actions, turns around and begins to walk away from Master Mata. However, she calls him by his name and turns off her lightsaber. Jedi Master Mata Tremaine looked at the troubled young man with a serene countenance. Taking measured steps towards him, she imparted words of wisdom to him. Tremaine believed that certain truths cannot be said directly. They must be discovered individually. If they were simply taught without considering the true meaning, full understanding wouldn't occur. A Jedi must be willingly delve into his heart and spirit. Freedon's desperation was palpable, pleading with Mata to show him the right direction. He would be willing to do anything to achieve his goal. However, Master Tremaine refused. A spear of rage pierced Freedon's heart. Nadd confronted Master Mata. However, his anger was directed not only at her, but at the entire order. Freedon was fed up with the mysteries the Jedi kept up. For him, the Jedi refused to share knowledge because, according to his logic, that would be giving up their power, their place in the Force. Shortening the distance between them and with a challenging attitude, Freedon Nadd, furious and fed up, stated that he was indeed a Jedi. He didn't need anyone's permission to be or not to be one. Mata remained motionless, watching the young student, while he continued cursing the Order. For Freedon, the teachings of the Jedi were nothing more than confused babbling, waiting to be pursued by the Padawans in search of something that doesn't exist, and given that, Freedon refused to continue falling for those lies. After this, he proclaims that in the future, he will become the greatest Jedi who ever lived, with the help of the Order or not. To Freedon's astonishment, Mata's eyes tightened and she subtly faced Nadd. Daring him to prove everything he had said, she taken the hilt and igniting her lightsaber. Freedon stopped, bewildered. Nadd understood what the master was trying to do and stood firm in his stance, taking his lightsaber. He wasn't going to let her win. That would prove that she was right, that he would never become a Jedi. All of his life, that was all he had ever wanted, and he wouldn't let her or any other Jedi master take it away. Freedon and Master Mata exchanged blows and defenses with their lightsaber. Tremain's mastery with the lightsaber was evident. However, just one mistake from her was enough for everything to end. Despite having the situation under control, Mata miscalculated a move, losing concentration. The young apprentice's lightsaber sliced through the air in a wide arcing motion toward Master's shoulder. Although she noticed the movement, she did nothing to stop it. Instead, her gaze locked onto Freedon's eyes, with an expression of profound calm and acceptance. At that moment, Freedon realized that he had failed the real test Mata had presented him, mistaking it for a threat rather than an opportunity. Despair took hold of him as he frantically tried to stop the saber's trajectory. But it was too late. When the lightsaber made contact with Mata's shoulder, piercing her tunic, her clothes fell lifelessly to the ground, subtly stripped of the body that had worn them. Tremain vanished into the Force. Freedon looked in stunned silence at the robe at the ground before him, feeling fear and remorse. However, as he reflected more on the events, he convinced himself that Mata had been to blame for everything. Her unorthodox methods of delivering the lessons, though well-intentioned, reeked of arrogance. His rage clouded his thoughts and directed all of his emotions towards anger. He fled from Ossus. Freedon Nadd harbored an unwavering conviction that his destiny transcended the boundaries of the Jedi Order, and he knew where to embark on a new exploration of the true nature of the Force. His journey took him to Asha's Tree, a world that was once part of the ancient Sith Empire. There, he would seek tutelage from the Sith themselves, aiming to surpass even the greatest Jedi. Guided by rumors and his intuition, Freedon Nadd traversed the vast expanses of the ancient Sith domains. Although disappointment dogged his steps, his determination never faded. Later, he learned of the existence of the legendary Naga Sadow, the Sith Lord who had commanded the Sith forces during the Great Hyperspace War against the Republic. However, since the end of the war, Sadow's final fate remained a mystery. But rumors pointed Nadd toward Yavin 4, and so he set course for the Jungle Moon, where Naga Sadow lay asleep. Arriving on Yavin 4, Freedon Nadd found himself engaged in combat with the few Sith guards Sadow had on Yavin. Nadd's studies during his journey served him well, and the Sith soon recognized him as the man his master had been waiting for. They led Freedon Nadd to where Naga Sadow slept, and the Sith Lord was reawakened at last. On Yavin 4, Freedon Nadd learned all he could from the spirit of Naga Sadow. The former Dark Lord, surprised by Freedon's ability, passed on his legacy to a new student willing to do anything. A student who would surpass his master Naga Sadow in all aspects, since it's believed that it was Freedon Nadd himself who ended the existence of the Dark Lord of the Sith by proclaiming himself Sith Lord. When Nadd finally left Yavin 4, he was different. The apprentice who loved life was left behind. In that young man's place stood the terrible figure of Freedon Nadd. Freedon's learning didn't stop with the teachings of Naga Sadow. Returning to Asha's Tree, Nadd had in his possession different important artifacts, such as his lightsaber. Freedon Nadd wielded a distinctive lightsaber with a bronze-colored blade that was shorter in length than traditional models. When making this weapon, he opted for a design that featured a simple cylindrical hilt, following the standard lightsaber construction. However, the true uniqueness of Nadd's lightsaber laying the type of crystal he chose to power it. Nadd selected a rare variant known as Ruvat crystal. This unconventional choice gave his lightsaber blade notable visual properties. The Ruvat crystal sharpened the appearance of the blade, improving its definition and allowing Nadd to follow its movements with exceptional precision. For Nadd, combat was important, but not as important as knowledge, and among the most notable possessions Nadd had was a variety of priceless Sith devices, including a legendary item in Sith history, the Holocron of King Atas, the legendary Sith King who united his people to fight against the Rakata. And inspired by the teachings of his Sith masters, Freedon Nadd created his own Holocron, compiling all the knowledge he had acquired. His travels took him to the planet Onderon. He brought the dark power to that planet, and thanks to his enormous power, he ruled for years. Rumor of his tyranny eventually became the concern of the Jedi Order. All the Jedi Masters of the Order knew perfectly well who this new threat on Onderon was. The young prodigy who years ago had escaped from Ossus. Knowing the magnitude of the threat, the Jedi Order sought to free Onderon from his rule. A team of knights was sent to deal with the Sith Lord, and after a battle, Freedon Nadd and his forces were defeated, ending Nadd, but only in his physical form. Despite his physical absence, the immense power of Freedon Nadd's dark side ensured that Onderon remained shrouded in darkness for centuries to come. His spirit remained awake, exerting his malevolent influence on the inhabitants of the planet. Buried deep within the palace was his tomb, which was a nexus of dark-side energy that attracted followers to the ways of the Sith. As his lineage proliferated, so did the practice of the Sith teachings of Onderon. Over the decades, a succession of rulers assumed control of the city, each of them becoming Nadd's apprentice. These rulers constantly sought to increase their dark side powers in the presence of the Dark Lord's spirit, eager to delve into the arcane mysteries of Sith sorcery under his tutelage. Among Nadd's descendants was Omin, who ascended the throne of Onderon as king and who married Amanoa, the queen. Seeking to complete his indoctrination into the Sith ways, Omin begged to the Dark Lord to tutor him, hiding this secret from his wife. For many years, Nadd taught Omin the arts of Sith sorcery. When Amanoa finally discovered her husband's loyalty to Nadd, her despair consumed her. However, the Dark Lord patiently fed her anguish, allowing her to turn to hate. It was then that Nadd began turning Amanoa into the Sith magic, just as he had done with her husband. Nadd's ultimate goal was to achieve physical resurrection. By rigorously training his descendants, he hoped to find a powerful candidate capable of mastering the alchemical practices of his former master Nagasatao, and using them to create a corporeal vessel to house his spirit. The queen moved deeper and deeper into the darkness, leaving the reach of the light behind. She completely surrendered to the dark side. Guided by the spirit of Freedon Nadd, Amanoa was instructed in the ways of the Force and Sith techniques, gradually accumulating power until she became a formidable sorceress. However, to Freedon's bad luck and his plan, things began to go wrong. King Omin fell victim to a peculiar affliction that seemed to eat away at the marrow of his bones. And Queen Amanoa taking control of the throne, her motivation of power and knowledge disappeared in her. Plus, she had to deal with the Beast Wars conflict. Nadd realized that the pair were no longer useful to him. However, the hope he had in Amanoa still lingered. So Nadd developed a plan where he would force Amanoa to take up her Sith practices and become more powerful by threatening Amanoa that he would destroy her if she didn't stop the Beast Wars that had been going on for years. Amanoa knew of the immense power that Nadd possessed, so fear invaded her. Whether it was a desperate measure or whether it was a misunderstanding, only Amanoa knew. But her reaction to such a threat was to ask for help from the Jedi Order, this being the beginning of the intervention and arrival to Onderon of the 3 Jedi, students of Master Arca Jeth, Tott Donetta, Ulic Qel-Droma, and Ulic Qel-Droma. Back in Onderon, after the celebration of the wedding between Gallia and Oren, Master Arca warns that the battle against the dark side hadn't ended, since within Onderon there were still fanatics and followers of Freedon Nadd. In addition, the rumors say that Gallia's father, King Omin, could still be alive, and the importance of this lies in the fact that he's a direct descendant of Freedon Nadd, so Arca mentions that they have to stay in Onderon for a while.